Hello and welcome to Rise Zion. I am alone today. Ethan was not able to join me today in recording, but that's fine. I'm here by myself and I still have a story to tell you guys. It's actually involving a number of stories that happened throughout all of my mission. I served my mission in the Argentina Rosario mission from 2009 to 2011. And I mentioned before when I was recounting some of my stories that my area, in my mission, we were neither allowed to drive unless you were the mission assistant. They had a car and they were allowed to drive. And also we were not allowed to ride bikes because it was too dangerous in our mission to ride bicycles. And so we were strictly to walk and pay attention to what was going on around us so that we would not be hit by the crazy traffic that is sometimes in Argentina. And I thought I would just go through and recount some of these stories because they're kind of fun and interesting. And actually, there is a miracle at the end of these stories, but most of these have nothing to do with miracles as far as I know. They're just fun and interesting stories. But at the very end, we do have a miracle. Stick around to the very end and we'll get to the story that has to do with the actual miracle. When I first arrived in Argentina, we had just gotten through 29 hours of flying on an airplane, layovers, 29 hours of this. We flew from Salt Lake to Los Angeles. We flew from Los Angeles down to Lima, Peru, where we stayed for a while. We had a very long layaway. When we arrived in Lima, it was very dark. And then we flew from Lima into Buenos Aires. And then from there, we were to wait. We had instructions to wait for somebody to come and pick us up in a van. And they were going to take us to Rosario, which that trip ended up being several hours long from Buenos Aires to Rosario. So we wait at the airport. We were just like, where's our ride? Like we were very, we were very nervous. It was a bunch of new missionaries. We had no one there with us. It was just us all alone. Everything was humid. It was such a different experience being in this Argentine airport. And so we're just waiting there. And finally, our ride shows up for members who own this like a ferrying service of, they would take the missionaries and other people in this van, and that's how they made their living. So they finally arrived and we got all of our stuff into their van and we were getting situated and we're like watching the traffic drive by crazily. And it was it was a very interesting experience. And so the first thing that I noticed was that there was somebody who was trying to parallel park in front of us in the van. And as they were trying to park, they they like wedged themselves in this car, and they pushed the car in front of them because there wasn't enough space for them to parallel park. They just wedged themselves into this tight little area and they used their bumper to push the car in front of them. And then they backed up and they hit the car behind them too. And they made a space for themselves by like driving, like, and pushing the cars apart as they wedged themselves in. So that was that's the first story, the first instance of bad driving in Argentina. Now, but most of the accidents that I witnessed on my mission involved motorcycles, which is actually really dangerous because most people couldn't afford cars. Most people just had motorcycles and they'd drive around on their little motos. They called them motos. And so the first really serious accident that I witnessed on my mission was in Anacleto, Medina. And I mentioned before that there was a lot of opposition to this area. It just seemed like it was a more dangerous area, maybe, and there was a lot more opposition. But this accident happened at night when we were preparing and getting ready for bed. And we heard this enormous crash outside of our apartment. We like went over and we had to open up our windows because they had like these steel shutters. We had to open up these shutters and we looked out to see what was going on. And as we opened it, we just caught the tail end of a car driving away. So this was a hit and run. And this guy was laying there on the curb, and his head, I remember, was just on the curb in the intersection that was right in front of our apartment building. And people were yelling and screaming. There was like chaos everywhere. They're very angry that the guy had just driven away. And so it was just like this very chaotic scene. Luckily, the paramedics were able to get there very, very quickly and get him to a hospital, and that was something that was quite shocking that happened so close to our home. So that really just, drove home the point that, the streets were dangerous. If I didn't need any more evidence than that, but that was really the first serious accident that I witnessed on my mission, involving a motorcycle and a car that drove away. In the same area, we actually did get into a minor accident in a taxi. Somebody bumped into us as they were trying to merge. So that was quite exciting. But luckily, we were not hurt. Nobody was hurt in the car. The other person's car, they weren't hurt. And they just exchanged some sort of insurance information that the taxi driver wanted. So that was the second thing that happened. And it was in the same area. It was in Anacleto, Medina. Okay, and then the next story also involved a motorcycle accident, but this time it was in Parque Field. So this was near the end of my mission. So in this case, we were just doing our contacts in a certain part of Parque Field. And as we were going along, we heard tires, kind of screeching, and then like skidding on the dirt road, because the tires wouldn't like really screech. You could just hear it like slide across the gravelly kind of dirt. And we looked up and we looked down the road, and down the way we could see this car slide into a moto, and it knocked the moto into the Sanha. And I told a story previously about the Sanha, but the Sanha is like this really gross, like these ditches that run in front of all the streets in Argentina. And that's kind of where like the sewage water goes a lot of the time. So it's really gross water. And it the car knocked a guy right into this dirty water, and his moto was in there, and he was like laying on the ground under the moto, kind of in the water. Luckily, he was okay. We kind of like walked up to see what was going on, and the door of the car opened up, and it was a member of the church who we knew. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a member of the church. And that was quite, I was like, oh no. And so we went to go see if they need any help or anything. And no, they got the guy to the hospital. They got the guy out of the Sanha, and they got him to a hospital, and everything was okay. So I think he did hurt his ankle though a little bit, because he did get his ankle pinned like under his motorcycle and on the bank of the Sanha. So that was really bad. The next story that I have to tell also happened in Parque Field. This is a kind of a weird story, because we were contacting and it was getting late, so it was dark and it was rainy. So there was nobody out. As usual, nobody comes out in the rain, because if you go out into the rain, you will get sick in Argentina. That's something that they all say. So nobody goes out during the rain. Everybody stays indoors, and they make little fried cakes instead of going to work or doing anything for that matter. So it was late and it was rainy and muddy, and we were going along, and we see this guy like kind of struggling in the mud, also like pinned under a moto. And so we like go up, we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just trying to stand up. And we could smell the alcohol coming off of him. So we figured that he got into a little accident by himself, because he was a little intoxicated. And so we were like, oh, okay, well, let us help you. And so we helped him pick up this bike. Like, for some reason, we noted that the bike wasn't started or anything. But anyway, we started pushing his bike towards his home. And we noticed that it was kind of difficult to do. And so we started trying to talk to him, Elder Page and I. We were just trying to like talk to him and like, start a discussion and try to find out more about what his story was, how he got into this accident. He didn't really tell us much. He told us his name. So we actually crossed out of our area and we went into an area that wasn't our area. We didn't know this at the time. So we wouldn't be able to teach him anyway, because he was outside of our area. And so we helped him and we got the motorbike. And for some reason, he wanted to push the motorbike into his house. And we thought that was a little odd. But he was in kind of a more sketch area of town. And so we thought, okay, so maybe he's just putting it in his house to, keep it safe. But then it occurred to us as we were walking back home for the day that we may have just helped him steal that motorcycle, because he didn't like turn on the bike at any point to make our pushing of the moto more easy. And so we're thinking, did we just help somebody steal a motorcycle? We referred him to the sister missionaries, I think, because that was their area next to ours. I don't know whatever became of him. I don't think he was ever taught. But yeah, that was something interesting that we noted. Now, also in Parque Field. So this is 3 stories now in Parque Field involving moto accidents. And this also is really important. So whenever you're driving, please do not try to pass somebody on the right-hand side. And there's a very important reason why this is the case. Because we were walking down the street and people are passing every which way. And we saw a moto coming up and he went parallel to a car, and we realized that he was trying to pass this car. But as this was happening, they came up to an intersection and the car started turning to the right, and he didn't notice that this motorcycle was in his blind spot. And so as he was turning like this, the moto was coming and the motorcycle nearly crashed into this car, but thankfully he veered off and he went into the grass off the road right in front of us. So we were able to witness all of this insanity. But thankfully nobody was hurt in this case. No accident really occurred, but it was a near accident. All right, so that was that was one of the notable stories from my mission. Don't try to pass on the right hand side. That's something that I took away from this. All right, now this was this final story. We're into the final story now that involves the miracle. Okay, so in this area, I was in San Nicolas area, or my area was Ramajo. The district was San Nicolas. Okay. So we all would get together for district meetings, and sometimes we would do that preparation day up there all together. They had shopping centers up in San Nicolas, so we'd do shopping. And we just take care of chores and stuff that we needed to do. So I was carrying around with me this folder that I had, and I carried with me all the receipts because I was going to hand that in, because we would get reimbursed for necessities that we needed to take care of. So as we were walking along down the street, we were doing something. I can't remember what we were doing, but we were going someplace in the middle of San Nicolas. And as we were crossing the road, we had, the light was for us to cross the road. Like, I noticed that like a paper was kind of hanging out of the folder. It was a receipt that I needed. And as we were crossing the road, this receipt a wind blew the receipt, and I kind of turned back to go after it, but I didn't notice that like a guy on a motorcycle was trying to cross the road behind us, even though it was a red light. So he was coming, and I was walking right into his path, and I didn't realize it because I didn't see him or hear him, oddly enough. And as I reached down to try to grab the silly receipt that was blowing away from me, like at the last minute, like something, I don't know, like something compelled me to like turn back or turn to the side, and I stood up suddenly, and the moto just drove past me, and it was like a foot away from hitting me. And had I been leaning over, he definitely would have clipped my head or hit me in some way. And I was like, what on earth is going on? Like, will you have a red light? I was like trying to yell at him, like, and he was like, oh my gosh, as he was driving past, he didn't stop, of course, but he was like this, like, oh, and he just drove down the street, and we didn't see or hear from him again. And I was like, I turned to all the other missionaries, like, did you just see that? And so that my heart was racing after that, and thankfully nothing bad happened. And I do think that this was an instance where God had his angels looking out for me. So thankfully nothing bad ever happened to harm us physically as missionaries. And I credit God and his angels for looking after us. And I definitely think I can bear my testimony on that point. All right, so that's the story for today. If you have a story, a miraculous story from your mission that you would like to share, please click the link in the description and fill out our form, and we'll reach out and see if you can be on our program. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and comment below as well. We're trying to grow this channel, and we're doing so well. We have 10 followers so far. We've only been going for, well, actually, no, sorry. I think we have 10 followers now. And we've only been doing this for about a month, so we're doing pretty good, I think. Our videos have a lot of views, and we thank you for being a part of the program, for liking our videos, and we look forward to hearing from you, hopefully soon. All right, bye. Thank you for watching Rise Zion. Before you go, I have an important ask. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Our goal is to help fortify people's faith by providing some empirical evidence of God's hand in their life. However, if people can't find our videos or our channel, then our mission isn't accomplished. By liking and subscribing, you'll be helping us in this important mission. Thank you again, and until next time, bye.